Hi everybody. Today we're going to review a tool called TextBlaze, which allows you to, basically eliminate repetitive typing. It's a nice little repetitive typing helper using like these keyboard shortcuts to allow you to kind of, like add, a particular text, right? And it has all of these cool features here and there. I've been a paying customer for the last couple of months, and so I'll share my experience. I'll share the pros and cons and pricing and everything in between, so that you can make the decision if TextBlaze is for you or not, right? Um, TextBlaze is, you know, like like I said, it's a repetitive typing helping tool, right? You can basically use it on Windows and Mac, right? So on Windows, it's available as a desktop app as well as a Chrome extension, while on Mac, it's available only as a Chrome extension. So, if like me, you're a Mac user, right? Like you can only use TextBlaze on Chrome, but to be honest, like at least I do like 99% of my work on Chrome, so it doesn't matter, but just thought I'd make you aware about that. Now, TextBlaze is useful for basically any digital worker. If you're somebody who is doing any kind of work, digital work, right? You're essentially facing some kind of repetitive typing, right? Be it sending follow-up emails or sending, an outreach email, um, you know, to like let's say a candidate that you want to hire, or you're sending, follow up, or you're coordinating time zones with your remote teammates, right? Like for all of those things, like it basically helps you that, right? And the basic premise is just this, right? Like when you like essentially with typing as well, right? The 80-20 rule is applicable, right? 20% of your typing has 80% value, right? And vice versa as well, that 80% of your typing has 20% value, right? When you're, let's say, sending a guest post pitch to, let's say a blog, right? The most important bit is the personalized bit in there, right? Like the, I don't know, the three guest post ideas that you have. The rest of it is kind of the same, right? Like, and it's like, hey, if you'd be interested, get back to me and all of that, right? And really what it does is it helps you automate that 80% automation, helps you focus on the 20% personalization, right? So I like to, say that TextBlaze is kind of personalization at scale, right? And I think the other thing that I've really liked so far with TextBlaze is just that, I mean, like saving time is something that a lot of other tools do, especially with repetitive typing. There's a tool for LinkedIn, for automating LinkedIn messages, and there's a tool for, sending follow-ups on Gmail, and, there's a tool for, like, I don't know, writing ad copy, right? Like, there's all sorts of different tools out there, and, all of them have their own separate subscriptions and add to tool fatigue. And TextBlaze basically eliminates majority of those tools, right? And puts it at like a super cheap subscription price of just $3 per month. So yeah, I mean, like let's say I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview of, on my account, just to kind of, give you an idea of how it works, right? So once you log in, you basically enter this dashboard, right? And to create a new snippet is fairly simple. You basically click on new snippet and it brings you to a basically a dashboard like this where you can add a shortcut, right? So let's say if you want to send a LinkedIn message, you can put the shortcut as LM and then write the text, right? So anytime, next time, if you, let's say, you know, I'm just gonna make this easy for you, right? So anytime you have to, put this message, right? You can basically just be like, and then it just adds it there, right? So that's the simple story behind TextBlaze. It's a very simple idea, but they've added a lot of useful features in there, right? Like for example, they you can have dynamic commands, you can have you can add all sorts of things, right? So you can add, the current date or time, you can, add certain forms, you can add if then and else statements, you can even, add commands from LinkedIn, like fetching someone's first name and then automatically personalizing your email or your LinkedIn message, all sorts of things, right? So I'm just going to show you some of my snippets that are quite handy, right? So let's first look at the LinkedIn one, right? So at any time I kind of I have to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, I basically have a snippet where I just write connect and automatically TextBlaze, finds the first person and then basically, sorry, the first name of the person, adds that, and then does that, right? So it makes it helps me connect with a bunch of people really quickly while sending like personal messages, right? I also use it to, let's say, recruit writers, right? So, sometimes I forget my commands, right? And that's something you have to just remember, but I think this is the one, right? The writer intro, right? So whenever I'm reaching out to a new writer, I'll be like writer intro, right? And then TextBlaze will automatically replace that with, message like, hey, are you taking up freelance writing work, right? And if they respond to yes, then I'll be like, I will give them work. So let me find a shortcode for that, because you have to be like exact on the keyboard shortcut. Okay. So this is writer work, right? So I'm gonna click on writer work, right? Normally TextBlaze is not, it's actually really fast. It's just right now um, it is moving a little slow because I'm recording this video in 4K. So excuse me for that, but let me just make sure that this is exactly what I was looking for. Writer work. Yeah. Um, let's try with Drew. Should work. Not sure why this is not working. Let's try again. Writer work. Hmm. Okay, this was a bit of a fail. Normally works. I don't know why it's not working, but anyway, we will move past that. Now let's talk about the emails, right? Like you could use this for emails as well, right? So for example, I want to follow up with somebody, right? So I'm just gonna write F1. And then, now this is where things get interesting, right? Now I have this dynamic field that has come up, and I'm going to explain how. But like, let's say, for example, I want to use a name, right? So, hi Madhav, any update? Click on insert, and that's it. Boom, right? It automatically added that, right? Now, let's say sometimes I want a different signature, right? So I'm just going to be like signature, right? And then it automatically adds my signature, right? Like, so it kind of helps you out with like all of these simple, um, simple things, right? So let me just kind of take you through some more of my interesting ones, right? Let's say I want to schedule a 25-minute call with some of my teammates, right? So I'm just going to click on 25, and then, it's just going to be like, hey, nice to meet you. Can you find a time here that works? And feel free to share your calendar, right? So and this is basically like, it'll pick one of these three just to kind of switch things up. Sometimes it'll say nice to meet you, sometimes it'll say great to meet you, sometimes it'll say pleasure to meet you, right? So this is quite helpful, sometimes when you're trying to coordinate time zones. So I think this works. So I think, and like within like email, there's, a whole bunch of things you can do there. Let's say, for example, the guest post pitch, right? So let me just show you that here. Um, so I want to write a guest post pitch, right? Now, this is where you can add personalization into your email, right? So 80% of the email is the same. It's really the important bits that's there, right? So let's say I'm trying to pitch uh, a guest post to Trello.com, right? And my ideas are learnings from running podcast for 2 years, right? Or my blog post production process in yeah. And the other one is the guide to hire exceptional marketing talent, right? These are my three ideas. I'm just gonna click on here, insert, and now, boom, it's now added, the first name. I'd love to contribute a guest post on Trello.com. Here are three ideas. Do any of them interest you? All of that, right? And then I'm just gonna click on uh, signatures, and then boom, right? Like, and that's how it helps. It helps you reach to a lot of people, right? Like, while not going the automated route, but like going manual, but like still using these tools to help you out, right? Because like, if you've ever seen, right, like with automation, there's always the chance of your email account getting spammed or like blocked, your LinkedIn account getting banned, your like there's all sorts of things, right? But when you're doing manually, right, like like you're kind of safe from all of those things, right? And then the other thing also is just that, you know sending hundreds of emails with a generic message, you know, versus sending five highly personalized emails to five people, like, which do you think is going to get better responses, right? Obviously, the second option, right? And so it allows you to go from 5 to 20 with all of these automations while still keeping things manual, right? So these are just some of the ways I use TextBlaze on my email and on my LinkedIn, right? Now, there's another way that I've started using, TextBlaze, which is through to get some content out for from ChatGPT, right? So this is an interesting one, right? So oftentimes, I have found that there are certain ChatGPT prompts that have worked really well for me, right? And if, let's say, you're in if you've been under a rock or something, you don't know what ChatGPT is. It's basically this revolutionary technology that allows you to create content, and like basically, and AI helps you kind of create that content. Now, there are certain prompts that work really well for me, right? And so I've basically saved those prompts and then I use that through TextBlaze to get something out, right? So, for example, I want to write a blog post introduction comparing two software apps, right? So I'm going to write, I think my shortcut is this. This is a bit, sometimes I forget my shortcuts, right? So that's why you need to have something that works really well, right? So BCI. Okay, wonderful, right? Now, this basically has prompts for ChatGPT, right? And now all I have to do is just follow fill in the blanks in here, right? So let's say I want to create a blog post about TextBlaze versus Text Expander, which is another competitor that they have, right? Topic of software comparison, uh, repetitive typing tools, importance, helps save time and makes you 2x more productive. I'm just making stuff up in here. What will I compare? Um, I'm going to compare features, pricing, pros and cons, and what we cover in the post, expert level comparison between text plays and text expander. That's all. I just needed to put the inputs. The rest of the stuff is in here. I click on insert, and now it's created this really great prompt for ChatGPT. Now, and when I kind of click on this, right, this is where you'll kind of get the magic, right? Um, there we go. And so, and that's why, like, it's super helpful, right? Like, while ChatGPT is writing this, right, like I have other ones, let's say, for meta description, right? This is something I kind of got from somewhere else, right? And you can, like, you can basically the way it looks from here, right? Like, so if I were to show you the GPT prompt that we had just tried, I'd basically set up all of these different form fields that I have to fill for it to kind of create that prompt for me, that customized prompt, right? But it's more like a set it and forget it thing. Once I've kind of set this up, I just keep reusing this again and again, right? So there's the initial setup time, which takes a little bit of time, and they have a lot of templates that you can use, right? So let's say I want to let's say I want to create a meta description, right? So I'm going to use the shortcut MD to create something, right? And just by the way, if I, this has created an absolutely usable blog post with exactly what I need, right? Like covering all the features, pros, cons of each tool, right? You might see this blog intro when I kind of create the blog post for the topic I'm talking about in today's video, right? Now let's say I want to create a meta description for this post, right? So I'm just going to click on MD, and now it takes me here, and now I can basically add, let's say, my keyword. You can read through the prompt just to understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to write for TextBlaze review, and Google's meta description limit is 160 characters. So I'm going to click on that. So boom, now it's created something. As a content marketer, write a catchy description for blog post with the keyword text blaze review, right? And now let's see what it does. There we go. And so this is where like I find so much value out of TextBlaze, because it's essentially made my Chat GPT prompts into like a superpower, right? Like I could use Chat GPT, I could use Copy AI, I could use any AI writing tool, right? Like the your inputs dictate what the outputs look like, and TextBlaze has actually made that super simple for me, right? So that's another use case I do that, right? And then there's all sorts of things, right? Like sometimes let's say I want to kind of I basically publish a lot of videos on YouTube. Well, like maybe 4 or 5 videos a month. And sometimes the YouTube description has my affiliate links, but it's a lot of them, right? So essentially, when I have to add, I basically just go in and be like, add this description. And now it's added all of my affiliate links, of all the tools and everything, right? So it saves a shit ton of time. And that's what I love about it, right? Now you can experiment with this in a lot of different ways, right? So um, let's say, for example, you want to kind of send a message to somebody, um, whose blog post you liked, and you want to kind of send a very personalized message, right? So let's say I'm going to write LP connect, which is my connection request one, right? And now I get this prompt, right? Where I'll be like, saw a LinkedIn post, and I write linkedin.com/post, which I want that is, right? And especially the part about, how you said SEO is dead, which it is not, but just for fun, right? And now TextBlaze will do its magic. And he's like, hey, Drew, saw your LinkedIn post, da da da. And God, I love it. Especially the part about how you said SEO is dead. Doing an awesome job, keep up the good work, right? And it just saved a lot of time. By the way, like I said before, right? It usually like super quick, right? For some reason on LinkedIn and everything, uh, as I'm recording this 4K video, it's a little slower, but yeah, I mean that's how uh they do it. Now, just to kind of give you a quick preview, right? Like you have a lot of dynamic command options, right? Like I said, you can insert a date or time. You can place a cursor somewhere. There's all sorts of use cases for that. You can have a form. This is exactly what I used for the chat GPT prompts, right? You can have a text field, paragraph field, you can have a drop down menu. So, basically you could have a command which could have 3 different templates, depending on the scenario, right? So, for example, if somebody reaches out to you for an advisory opportunity, you could, just select the advisory option. But if someone reached out for a consulting opportunity, there could be a different reply. Or if somebody just, reached out to you for a co-founder opportunity, there could be a different reply, right? So it just allows you to do that. You can also add like all sorts of, different kind of things like, insert row into table with a shortcut. You can also insert website information. You can, add, LinkedIn information. You could even automatically CC somebody, right? So for example, you can have like a toggle option in here and basically be like, if there's an email that requires you to that requires you to, copy a colleague, you can basically just click on that check mark of that toggle and it'll automatically CC your colleague, right? So there are all sorts of these awesome features, and they're coming up with a lot of different things, and it just like this setup just allows you to be like super fast, right? Now that I've kind of explained you like how TextBlaze works, right? Let me just kind of tell you, just from personal experience, like what have been like the pros and cons, right? I think in terms of the pros, it saves a shit ton of time, right? I'm not even kidding, right? Like, for guest posts, right? Like what would take you to personalize the guest post, maybe like, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours, you can reduce that to 1 hour. Like it really, really helps you save a lot of time, right? I think the second thing is just that I think it also kind of eliminates the need for a lot of other apps, right? So I've been able to cut out a bunch of apps which I was unnecessarily paying for, right? I had a separate app for, sending, automated follow-ups, right? Now it's just, it's a lot more quicker to just go into each of these and just, put in like my command in there, right? Um, I think the most important pro that I've seen with TextBlaze is that it's allowed personalized outreach at scale. And when I say personalized outreach at scale, basically, everyone is tired of automation or automated messages, right? Like, which basically sound like chatbots. Standardized message like, hey, you're doing an awesome job with your blog. Would you, want to kind of promote our tool on your blog, right? I get this kind of a message like, 4 to 5 times a week for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and nobody changes that, right? I straight up click on spam on those. But if I were to get somebody's email saying that, hey, I read this post, I love this bit of it, I think, we're relevant for this, would you be interested? And here's a custom offer, right? Like these are things that will perk up my eye, right? And this would work for me even when I'm reaching out to folks, right? When I'm doing the same thing, right? And I feel there is no other tool out there that allows you to do personalized outreach at scale for this wide variety of use cases. uh, Only TextBlaze can do that, right? And at a super cheap price, right? Like, so I think these are just like some of the pros that I found, right? Like, it's also very like, keyboard shortcut friendly, right? So if you're somebody who likes to just kind of keep, uh, you know, if you're somebody who's very, for keyboard shortcuts, right? Like this is just a godsend. And then yeah, I mean, like I think these are like majorly the pros, and I would also say like I think that commands with LinkedIn, like with fetching the first name or the last name or the headline, or Gmail, with CC BCC sending email, like I think these are super helpful. There's a lot of different things in here. I found the forms were very helpful in personalizing content, right? So yeah, I mean, like it's a very mature product, works pretty well. I've never seen it not work, uh, except like in this one instance in today's video. But yeah, now let's talk about the cons, right? I think the first thing is that when you kind of get into TextBlaze, I think it's a little intimidating and advanced for the average user, right? So you might just be like, there's all sorts of coding in here, and you might just be very intimidated by it, right? And trust me, I was also quite intimidated, right? Because I'm not a coder, right? And just I think the owners of TextBlaze could do a better job in the future of like making it less intimidating at the beginning. But I can promise you this, right? Like if you kind of spend a little bit of time into their documents, right? And when you get that basic idea of like how things work, right? Like it really just takes like half a day to kind of get used to it. And then, it requires you to spend an hour to create all of your snippets. And then it's a set it and forget it kind of thing, right? Like because majorly your snippets are in there, you just keep using your commands and use it. You don't even have to log into TextBlaze every single time, right? But let's say, for example, you like a certain prompt, let's say, right? And you want to kind of add it to TextBlaze, you can just right click it and then just click on TextBlaze and then make it a snippet. You don't even have to log in and create something, right? Um, so my point is that it can be a little intimidating for the user, but if you spend time on it, it's not that hard. The second thing I think I saw, I found a little bit of an issue here was that it wasn't an issue for me, but like they only have an app for Chrome for Mac users, so they don't have a desktop app for Mac users, while they do have a desktop app for Windows users, right? So if you're somebody who uses a lot of the native mail client on Mac, or if you use the Apple Notes and all of that, right? That might be a bit of an issue because you can't use TextBlaze there, right? So I think it would be nice to have something like that, and it would be super nice if they can have TextBlaze and mobile apps because that's going to be a game changer. But right now, it's only available on Chrome, and it's fine with me because I'm doing like majority of my activity on Chrome. So I think that's a bit of a compatibility issue in terms of the cons. I think the third thing was, you know, I generally sometimes forgot about some of the longer shortcut names, right? Like it's easy to remember, oh, I want to schedule a 25-minute call, let's do 25 or 50, or follow up one F1, like all of these things I remember. But like the things like writer intro, I can sometimes be writing intro, I can sometimes write writer introduction, then I wouldn't be able to do that, right? So it's very important for you to kind of use easy shortcuts so you can remember easily. But I recently discovered that you can actually just go in here and then basically find whichever shortcut you want, right? So that actually solves this problem. But once you have like hundreds of snippets, it might get it might get a little confusing, or you won't be able to remember all of your shortcuts basically. I think the fourth con that I had was really that they actually have a small library of templates to create something, right? Like because sometimes like just kind of create the form and everything. I think it's like it's you need to use a template to be able to understand it, right? And now let's say, for example, if I'm to take you to their gallery, right? It has like some customer support snippets and some for like product managers and sales, and it's decent, but I think it could be a little bit more in depth, right? Like, so let me just kind of take you to the sales snippets, right? So you'll have all sorts of snippets that you can basically just copy to TextBlaze, right? Which is helpful, right? Like definitely, but like for advanced ones like if then statements, they don't have a lot of these, right? So I would have loved for a bigger library, but however, I think that YouTube tutorials are pretty good. So if you start using TextBlaze, like I would recommend you to subscribe to their YouTube. Like they share a lot of good tips in there for like a lot of users, right? They've got a video for social media marketers, and they've got video for people who are just email productivity, like fanatics, right? Like that is for them, right? And I think one small minor last con that I would say is that the pricing basically does not include unlimited snippets. It basically includes like 1,000 snippets for $3 a month, right? But I would like to point out it's very hard to get to 1,000 snippets, right? Like because if you have 1,000 snippets, right? Like I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be super hard to remember those, especially as an individual user. Like as a team, I can understand you can have 1,000 snippets, but for an individual user, 1,000 snippets is a lot, right? Like you'd likely not reach that ever. Uh, but if you do, you can basically go on to the next plan, which is I think the business plan, which gives you 4,000 snippets for like $6 or $7 a month. But I think like I mean it would have been great if it was unlimited, but it really doesn't matter because right now as you can see, right, like I'm able to do majority of my work with like maybe 20 snippets, right? Sure, yes, this will keep getting added on, but like I already can't remember a lot of my shortcuts. So just something to kind of remember it by. Now, let's talk about um, how do I use TextBlaze, right? Like I've already explained that real quick, but let me just kind of share, right? Like I use TextBlaze to connect with LinkedIn leads super quickly. I use it to coordinate with on time zone syncing. I use it for recruitment and conversing with candidates for hiring them in my marketing team. I use it, to reply to messages with conditional filters, right? Like let's say I've received an opportunity for advisory, consulting, freelance, co-founder roles, right? I use it to follow up with my leads. Sometimes it's for a guest post, sometimes it's for a backlink, sometimes it's for a, for a sending a proposal to a client. Sometimes it's, for pitching, but particular somebody, right? I use it for chat GPT prompts. I think that has been super useful so far. So these are just some of my use cases. I know that uh, TextBase has a huge use case for like salespeople. Like they could use it for just so many different use cases. I know it has a huge use case for customer support reps because you have all sorts of similar problems that keep coming in from customer support folks, and you can just kind of choose a shortcut and just respond to as many tickets as possible. I think they'll get a lot of value there. Um, and I think you can also use it as a writer, right, for the chat GPT prompts and everything. Like so, like I said, it's applicable for everybody. It's also applicable to CEOs, right? Like who are, let's say, using it to connect with people and make introductions, or all sorts of things. You could have different uh, shortcuts, and then it basically acts like your executive assistant, your own personal executive assistant for $3 a month. Now let's talk about pricing, right? So how much does TextBlaze cost? So let's kind of take you through there. So TextBlaze starts with a 100% free plan. So the basic plan is free up to 20 snippets. So if you have as many snippets that I have, like it's just 20, it's less than 20 snippets. So it's actually free. There's obviously a limit of 2,500 characters, but 2,500 characters is a lot. I don't think I've used any snippet that's more than 2,500 characters. Once you kind of outgrow, let's say, your basic plan, you can go for a pro plan, right, which gives you 1,000 snippets, but it also kind of gives you form support, which is very useful for like all sorts of other use cases, right? Like unless you want like a simple pasting of a standard message, then you go with the basic. But if you want personalization at scale, pro is what you go for. So it'll cost you about $3 per month, which I think is super value for money and accessible for everybody across the globe. And then you can also add images to snippets, if that works. For example, replying to Twitter messages with like an image, right? That could work. Maybe you're promoting your ebook or something, you could do that. Now, TextBlaze works really well with individuals, but they also have some amazing features for teams, right? So they have got a lot of features to collaborate, add notes to snippets, get approvals, share your snippets, across the organization, see the usage history of snippets on a admin level. Like these are things that you get unlocked with a business license, which costs you about $7 per user per month. Like I said, consolidated organization usage statistics, like snippet change history, you know, snippet sharing among teammates, a huge number of snippets. So there's a lot, right? Um, Now, is it worth the price? I think it absolutely is. For this, smaller price, you can get a lot of use cases. And what I love about TextPlay is that unlike other software products, I think this is a tool that's for everybody. So it doesn't matter if you're in the US, Europe, or India. You could use it without being worried too much about the cost. So actually really love that about TextBlaze, right? Now, if you want to try TextBlaze, right? Uh, Please consider signing up through my affiliate link. There's two benefits that you and I get from it, right? The first is that it helps support my creator efforts. I can create more of this content for you, right? I get a cut at no extra cost to you. The second thing, which is a benefit to you, is that you know, if you go through TextPlay's normal site, you get pro trial for like 2 weeks. But if through my link, you actually get a month trial of pro, right? Which is more than enough to try out and like spend a long time trying out TextPlace, right? This is an exclusive deal that I basically negotiated with the founders, and it's there with me, right? So if you want to try TextPlace, just sign up through my link below, right? So overall, like my general thoughts about TextBlaze is that I think it's a solid tool. It's value for money. It saves you time. It's simple. It's a very simple use case, but with a lot of use cases. And if you're somebody who uses AI or writes a lot of repetitive content, I think this is the tool to have, and it's going to really change your productivity. Right? I hope you enjoyed seeing this review, and I hope you got value out of it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I wish you a wonderful day ahead. Take care.